Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host for the evening. Danny Cooper is taking the week off. This is show 166 for December 9th, 2015. And I am very lucky, and I mean lucky in the sense of I got a good scratcher ticket, to have with me three of my favorite panelists. And yes, Evan, I'm not including you in that. No. Oh, that's so not fair. So let's introduce him and get the show rolling. From the top of the Rocky Mountains, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back once again.
And we are so glad you are here. Sliding down into the plains of Illinois, near the metropolis of Chicago, my good friend, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Hi, everyone. Glad you could join us this week. I'm enjoying a very dark craft beer. It's called Time Out. It's from Only Child Brewing, which is a very small, brand new brewery. And this is 10.8 octane right here.
Woohoo. I'm sorry, did you say 10.8 octane?
Yes.
I didn't realize beer was measured in octane.
It is tonight.
And so is it called Timeout? And it's from the Child Brewing Company, so you give it to your children when they need a timeout and put them in the corner?
Oh, yeah. They get about halfway through that, and they're done. Yeah. It's really cool. It's called Only Child, and all of their beers have kid-themed, kid-themed names. It's really fun.
Oh. I like that. I was just thinking, am I the only one here old enough to remember when parents actually did shove cough medicine with opiates down their children to mellow them out?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Back in the olden days. Well, speaking of the olden days, let's start with our 2-minute topics. I have no idea how those two things connect, but I was trying to go.
Should we throw it to Canada?
Let's throw it to Canada. Start with
Is my monitor not working, or
did
what?
Did I not introduce Mark? I'm sorry.
Did Trump shut the border? What happened?
Man, you can tell who the stepchild is in this group.
Exactly. And you're not even a redhead. Isn't that nice? But he does have the nicest decorated set. Note the Christmas tree presents. And I do want to say, we just found out this week, Mr. Mark Coughlin is going to be attending the North American International Auto Show on behalf of What Drives Us. So look for amazing reports from Detroit from Mark after the show. So let's welcome him from Canada, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Thank you very much for the delayed introduction.
Mark.
That's really nice. It's really nice. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Always glad to be here. Actually, maybe my screen's showing up on Russell's side with big X on it or something.
It's a circle with a line through it. No more Canadians. Now wait, how does Guzik get through then?
He's a American Canadian.
I was born in Canada, but I'm. Yeah.
But you're a citizen?
Yeah, I'm both.
Are you? Okay, because
so I'm okay.
Donald Trump is onto your game, mister. That's all I'm going to say.
That's right.
Yeah, you better watch out.
We better record his
better not say I'm Muslim.
Yeah. They're going to send you back to where you came from.
After Trump shuts down the internet, we'll be done.
Oh.
Yeah, Paul, make sure you get an escape route mapped.
Yeah.
Start digging that tunnel to
building
Canada.
a tunnel.
Yeah. It's only 1,000 miles.
And for Boulder, it's all downhill. You could just bobsled back into Canada, and how appropriate when you think about it. Or is that a luge, just the one-man thing? I forget. Anyway, since I forgot to introduce him, let's start our 2-minute news topics with Mark Coughlin this week.
I've got a timely report that comes from my neck of the woods, Ontario. There was an announcement from the provincial government just yesterday that they will be funding a number of EV chargers up to the tune of $20 million. They're going to be placing L3 and L2 chargers along the highways of Ontario, as well as some cities. Right now, that's a great plus because, of course, in Ontario, there's a total, I believe, of 5 L3 chargers in the entire province, and 3 of them are owned by Nissan dealerships, I believe. So really, there's not much speaking of L3 charging, and this will certainly, putting it for public consumption near major highways will make a great leap in Ontarians' ability to charge on the go. So this is quite an announcement and a plus for EV drivers everywhere in the province of Ontario and people traveling through. So that's my 2 minute.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, take it away to Tony Schaefer.
Well, I wanted to talk about a new development in battery chemistry, I guess, composition. Just a real quick kind of thing here, but apparently the the RS2E, it's French, and so I'm not going to bastardize the French language by trying to explain it, but so we all know
You
lithium.
bastardize English every week, Tony. Why not?
Oh, I talk gooder than most does.
Yeah. Good point. Touche, sir. Oh,
Just kidding. I'm not. So we know lithium ion, and so this new chemistry, believe it or not, is actually sodium ion, Na-ion, and they actually make it sound really promising. They talk about its ability to charge and discharge quickly and exceed 2,000 cycles, which would make it good for a lot of uses. So I really don't have much to say other than that they're starting with what is known as the 18650 battery style shape, which seems to be the most common battery shape for use in electric vehicles, and they put them together. Paul could probably talk more about this, but I just the idea of a sodium-ion battery. Of course, sodium is more readily available than lithium. It's less expensive, easier to break down and recycle. So if they pull this off, it sounds like it could be a really big advancement as far as battery composition is concerned.
And I'd just like to say, if they pull it off. I've been messing around with batteries in cars since 2007, and about every month there's some press release like this about the battery that's going to change the world and be cheaper, better, faster. And until you can buy it, it's just the press release. So that's me, the skeptic.
well, and what about all those billions Toyota spent locking up the lithium market?
I think it's just more for their mental stability, having released the new Prius. They actually weren't using the lithium for the batteries. They were actually using it to
But they were
self-medicate.
converting it to hydrogen for the.
Tony, were you saying it was for medical use? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Back to Colorado. Everything always comes back to
Everything's
Colorado.
legal in Colorado.
Yes, lithium is legal in Colorado.
Well, wow. Well,
That's
thank you
where the
very much.
recycling happens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Let's go to our final 2-minute topic and Mr. Paul Guzik.
Yeah, well, it's close to the end of the year in Colorado, and there's a lot of good deals. Anybody in the listening audience looking for an EV or plug-in car, I'm going to share a link here. I don't know if someone can get it up, but you can buy a used Leaf, 2012 Nissan Leaf in Colorado after the tax credit for like $6,700 or something. Pretty good deal, and they're selling new Leafs apparently after the rebates for around $11,000. So great deals. If you buy a car by the end of the year, which is 21 days away, 22 days away.
And if you're watching the show live, you'll see it in the showcase. Otherwise, you'll see that link at whatdrives.us.
Yep. Oh, and this one just got sold. So
No.
Are
there'll
you
be more.
serious?
You were quickly, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did that on purpose. You got my hopes up. You built me up, and then.
Yeah.
There's others.
Oh man.
So how could, let's say, someone in the Chicagoland area, hypothetically, I know somebody, be able to come to Colorado, buy a car, and then bring it back? I mean, are we talking 200 miles at a time?
You could pay to ship it,
Okay.
or if you get the quick charge, you could stop every 80, 90 miles and quick charge it if you could find a charger.
In Nebraska.
You know, in Colorado, they're all up and down the
Mhm.
Front Range.
Yeah.
But I don't know about Nebraska.
Yeah. Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota.
Yeah,
Maybe not
ain't
so
a whole
much.
lot of.
But
I'd
even
be
with,
shipping it.
yeah, with, man, with that price, for a new
Well,
Leaf.
and you get people go, oh, like EVs, it doesn't have enough range for my needs, but at that price, it can be your second or third car for running
Mhm.
around town and keep your old car, your old Prius or whatever, for road trips.
A 2012 Leaf for $6,800.
Yeah.
It makes me want to cry.
That is certainly worth. Certainly worth the $800 to ship it.
Yeah, wait. Now
Right.
wait. There
Well, you
is.
have to be a resident to get the rebate.
Yes. That's after the Colorado. So is that $7,500?
No, it's it varies based on the selling price of the car.
Okay.
So the more the car, you get basically 24% off of the selling price because it has a 24 kilowatt hour battery. So if it had a bigger battery, you get a higher percentage.
Oh, but even so, that Leaf's only $8,900, $9,000. That's not bad.
Yeah, no, there's some good deals on used Leafs because of the upcoming new generation, and a lot of them coming off lease. So all around the country, there's some pretty good deals on used Leafs. So even if you're not in Colorado, there's very good value for the money.
Mhm.
So I want to go down this rat hole for just a second, Paul. So because this is something that I'm certainly interested in. I would love to buy like a nice cheap EV, but
Mhm.
because I'm kind of OCD, the first thing I would be worried about, and I know better, but I mean like
Right.
with Leaf, with an early Leaf, would be the condition of the battery because those first generation Leafs had some issues with battery degradation.
Right, but they all have 8-year, 80,000 mile warranties on the batteries. So even if you buy it used, it's still got a decent amount of warranty left. And your goal would be to fry that battery, 1 month before the warranty's up, and get them to give you a new one. So.
Oh. And that would work in any state, right?
Right, the warranty is nationwide.
Nationwide. Wow. Oh man, this makes. I really would
There
love
you go,
to have this
Russell.
car.
You've got it.
You have no idea how badly I would like something like this, but that's not what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about some. Yeah.
For Mark's benefit, they are selling used Volts in Colorado that come in about 12, 13 grand now. So, screaming deals.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
you'd have no
nice.
problem driving that home.
Nope.
No.
Nope. As long as you can find gasoline, you can get home.
It's,
Oh,
might be
man.
a stretch through Nebraska, but you get there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing in Nebraska.
No.
Horses and no, yeah. Let's move on. Tony suggested an interesting news story that we added to the mix the last minute. And I read through this, but I have to admit that I was an art major, so sometimes when it comes to higher statistics, my eyes kind of glaze over a little bit. So some of the graphs attached to this article aren't perhaps as meaningful to me as they might be to someone with, dare I suggest it, a triple-digit IQ. But the thrust of the article is this, and I'll summarize it quickly as opposed to that long introduction. Basically, there was a survey done of 327 early Tesla Model S owners, 2012 and 2013 Tesla Model S owners. And this survey basically, the statistical analysis of the survey says that most of these cars, the drivetrain motors are going to die between 60 and 100,000 miles.
Yeah, 2/3, a full 2/3. That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, I'd say.
And yeah, and one of these graphs does show the analysis of the drivetrains, and it's really freaking dramatic. I mean, you get statistically, you get some expected failures early on.
Yeah.
You get that. I mean, even Toyota, the Kaizen, says you're going to have, a certain number of statistical mistakes within a population. Okay, we get that. Move on to the more miles driven, and according to this, starting at 10,000, you get basically a straight line going straight up to almost 100% by the time the cars reach 100,000 miles. And it pretty much is saying that damn near everyone is going to fail or need to be replaced or addressed or something by 100,000 miles.
It's interesting in that almost the graph also shows that when you get to like between 90 and 100,000 miles, the failure actually slows down, which I guess isn't unreasonable to assume that if it hasn't failed by 80 or 90,000 miles, that it's not going to fail.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not drawing the right conclusion from that. The thing that stuck with me in this article was they had Green Car Reports had submitted some questions to Tesla, and Tesla declined to answer the questions, which shouldn't really be a surprise. And I wouldn't lay that just at Tesla's feet. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the other car companies wouldn't. But they did provide sort of a generic statement that talked about customer satisfaction being high and that the attention to customer service has been effective and blah, 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 blah. And that's absolutely true. Tesla has taken care of the problem. I think what that statement misses or intentionally ignores is that this is potentially a money loser for Tesla, obviously. Mm-hmm. If they have to start popping in new drivetrain motors in thousands and thousands of Model S's.
Well, and they say drivetrain, that doesn't necessarily mean just the motor. It could be the battery system, Oh,
that's true.
Because they would have said Tesla motors are going to fail. So maybe they're factoring in the battery as part of that certain percentage of batteries will fail. Because electric motors got to be one of the simplest machines in the universe. I mean, it's one part that rotates with no opposing forces like a internal combustion engine. So unless they've under-engineered it, it should hold up better than any gas engine. But the batteries, that could be the weak point.
Well, and that's so what you're saying, Paul, is that we really have no idea that even though there's a photo of the motors, that's potentially just unintentionally misleading us, and it could be a battery failure or a transmission failure of some kind.
Yeah, like how do they define drivetrain? Is it just the motor, or the motor and the axles that go to the wheels, and the battery pack? Who knows? They didn't really talk about that.
Yeah, they didn't really clarify specifically what parts, other than to lump everything into drivetrain.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe it's just too vague to be helpful.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe we just have to wait. 100,000 miles is going to be 10 years. I mean, what do you think? 10 to 12,000 miles a year. We're working at 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I would say at the most.
Maybe less. I mean, there's going to be like Uber people driving them and stuff. So.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see if that amount of mileage, when the average Tesla owner is going to start to run into that, is there going to be a greater amount of failures at that point, statistically or not? It'll be interesting to see.
Right. Have you worked on any Teslas, Paul?
Tires. There isn't a whole lot that breaks on them.
Right.
And at this point, Tesla is being kind of pissy about letting independent people work on their cars. Like, they don't make it easy to get their tools, their diagnostic equipment, or even parts. Like, if an independent shop like mine wanted to buy parts from Tesla, they're not going to sell them to me.
Really?
It's a point of contention for some people.
Wow.
Because every other car vendor, supports independent repair shops.
Wow.
And there's some people like in the EU trying to get a law that if a car company sells a car, they have to make their tools and parts available to independent shops for consumer, choices. Because you can imagine if you owned a Prius and you could only go to the Toyota dealer for parts and service, you could get screwed.
You could, yeah. In fact, you would be guaranteed to get. Oh, did I say guaranteed? I meant. Mark's waiting for the rat bastard.
As Tesla matures more, they'll start sharing their knowledge and their tool parts.
Yeah.
But I think right now they want to, like Apple, control the whole customer experience.
Well, and I don't blame them for wanting to, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily they can legally restrict. I mean, like they should.
Well, in the U.S. they can currently, but there's a petition online somewhere that you can sign and say, hey, car companies should be forced to sell to independent shops.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I see the burden on it. You're not going to order parts just to order parts.
Right.
Because you don't want to inventory Tesla parts, so, there's no reason if for some reason you're working on one, you shouldn't be able to get parts for it.
Right. Right, and right now the only option is salvage yards. So basically, if you need a driver's door for a Tesla, you find a Tesla in the junkyard that was hit on the passenger side, and the junkyard will sell you used parts.
Right.
New factory parts is a challenge right now.
Interesting.
Speaking of mileage, I want to point out that our friend Tom Stengel pointed out that Evan already has 60,000 miles on his Tesla Model S.
Ah.
He does. Yeah, I think the longer range of the Tesla is probably we're going to see, dare I say, just like a more gas-type vehicle mileage accrual. We won't see something that's a little more conservative, like maybe Leaf owners. Maybe that's not an accurate stereotype. It feels like it is, but I welcome any correction you, the listener and the viewer, would like to offer. Let's move on. Speaking of Tesla, customers of Green Mountain Power in the lovely state of Vermont will be the first in the United States to have Tesla Powerwall batteries installed in their homes.
There is no indication as to after how many miles the powertrain on the Powerwall will fail. So I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, thank you for making a very simple thing. It's a box with batteries in it. Complicated. Now somewhere out there, someone's Googling, powertrain? Powerwall? What? What is he talking about? Can I buy a Tesla for $7,500?
Well, maybe
really?
they'll use the worn-out powertrains to build Powerwalls.
Ooh.
Can you just buy Powerwalls and put them in the trunk of a Tesla and extend the range?
I don't see why not. I think you should just try it. You have to
sounds like a simple operation.
But you have to put it in the front, right? You put it in the frunk?
In the frunk.
Yes.
Or you just mount it to the roof like one of those ski packages.
Is it a tooling?
It is very aerodynamic looking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, if you live in Vermont, you will be, and a customer of Green Mountain Power, you will be able to give them $6,500 or more, or you'll be able to purchase one on a plan that starts as low as $3,750 per month, which will, I think, allow you sort of like a lease on a Powerwall, should you decide you need it, and there it is. I mean,
you get a free Keurig coffee machine. Isn't that Green Power?
Yeah.
I did find it interesting in this article where if you do lease it, it says that the energy company, by leasing, they have the ability to draw energy out of your battery to help curb the peak demand. Which, and I got to say, I have actually been preaching for years the idea of a distributed mesh network grid where everyone has batteries and everybody kind of gives and takes and you feed in. And although now that I read about it, I kind of was thinking, well, what if the energy company is drawing off of your battery and then you need it?
Unplug them. Turn the switch.
Yeah. And all of a sudden there's a guy like, hi, Mr. Schaefer, we're here for your Powerwall.
Right.
Yeah, I got a Makita 20 volt in one hand, and
your contract in the other.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Another thing I thought of is a number of utilities. Not saying that Vermont is like this, but they have minimum connection fees to the grid. So that 37.50 is pretty close to a minimum connection fee. So it's looking like a really good deal.
Right.
Yeah, I remember, thinking of Tom Stengel, a friend of ours, lives in Florida. I remember him making the argument once that you are required to have a grid connection in Florida, if I got that correct.
Yeah, you're breaking state law if you don't.
yes.
Yeah, so there is no legal way to go off the grid in Florida.
Well,
And I don't know if other states are like that or not.
that's probably one of the more progressive Florida laws. Because it doesn't. There's no ends. There's no result where where you could be executed. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard death penalty if you go off grid.
Yeah, old Sparky is still somewhere in Tallahassee, I guess. So.
Right. All right. And
Sounds
then,
like the utility maybe runs Florida at this point.
yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of businesses
got that
that run
law,
Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses that run Florida. I got to tell you, I'm absolutely fascinated to see these things out in the world and see what people do with them, see how long they last, see if it helps. And again, not to just continue my cheap Florida bashing, which it was, but since I've been down here, we have power glitches all the time. And of course I've got a big battery backup for the computer and all that, but for the whole house, what if you're cooking or you're doing something important and the power goes off for an hour? I mean, something like that has the power to really sort of help in a lot of situations where people wouldn't normally think they would have some sort of benefit.
I'm looking up right now. I've often wondered what is the average energy consumption of a typical house?
I don't know, Tony. That's a good question.
And would a single power wall cover it, or do you have to go to a dual to get that average?
Yeah, and that's why I asked, because it all depends on the house. Yeah, the house is whether you're running your microwave, your toaster, and your hot tub at the same time.
Right.
But the power walls, what did they say? The 7 kilowatt hour power wall.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how much? Oh my gosh! So I went to the U.S. Energy Information Administration and I found how much electricity. I found a FAQ page, which means I now have to read every question to find the one I'm looking for.
No.
So please speak amongst yourselves.
So we're going to go on to the next one, and we're going to pick up on that.
Actually, I just found it.
Okay.
I'm
sorry, that's our show for this week, folks. Thanks. Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
No, it's annual.
It's annual.
Okay, divide by 365 and you're there.
Yeah, so it said 10,900. So let's say 11,000 kilowatt hours, and an average of 911 kilowatt hours per month. So I guess you would have to divide that by 31. So yeah.
I did mention I was an art major at the top of the show, right? So yeah, I'm not going to do the math here.
Yeah. So it looks like if you are pulling in some renewable, either wind or solar, of course, the 7 kilowatt hour pack is going to certainly last you overnight.
Right.
So that you can top it off again tomorrow.
There you go. There you go. And if you're lucky enough to have solar, even during a hurricane or some sort of disaster, you might still be able to get some electricity. I do want to move on because we've got a few things to cover, and I think a couple of them might be a little bit longer. This was a thread from the Evil Prius Chat website. Now, we don't know anybody who... Yeah, Prius Chat. It's at priuschat.com, as a matter of fact. And I was fascinated by this, and so I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to think. One of the... a Prius Chat member named Netcub had posted, and I'll just read it because it's just like 2 sentences. Quote, I spoke with a local Toyota sales manager, and he said the dealership just placed their first orders for the 2016 Prius on Monday. He asked if he could take my name and number and said I would call. He said, I guess he would call back later in December, closer to delivery time, and he said they weren't expecting the first deliveries until early February. So you have a 2016 model car that isn't going to be hitting the shores of the United States until early February. According to this person, doesn't that kind of reduce the value of your vehicle a little bit?
Maybe they'll just call it 2017. Say it's early.
Pretty much. And I got to be honest, at least around here, I don't see a lot of people walking dealer lots in February. I mean, let's face it, it's single digit Fahrenheit. It's butt-ass cold. People are not walking up and down those dealer lots.
So what you're saying is that's going to hurt Prius sales. That's going to be another factor to potentially hurt Prius sales in the colder states because they won't. When they're actually on the lot.
What state was the Prius Chat guy?
This was
Kentucky.
Oh, well, that's why they're going to sell them first in California and then eventually get to Kentucky.
I wasn't. I have to admit, I wasn't.
The Volt is for sale in California, but they're not in Colorado. You know.
Right. Volt's just going to the 10 carb states, which I think is a huge mistake.
And Canada.
And Canada. Excuse me.
The 11th carb state.
I think we do have to take into consideration. We're talking about the 2016 Prius, and right now in Canada it's 1967, so it's going to be like 15 years.
Was that a bash on Trudeau? Or?
That's right. Yes. Yeah, the Prime Minister has been the same since '67.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a time warp. He's young and handsome and named Trudeau. I just don't know what to think. I mean, you know, there's like the value. Of course, Tony brings. I mean, that's a really good point, though. In the cold states, if these things start dropping to lots in February and March, I mean, you got to be really dedicated in those colder places to go looking for a car in January.
And then by the time it gets warm enough, quite frankly, by the time it gets warm enough to go out and look at a car, you're starting to ask yourself, well, why not just wait until the 2017?
Well, and okay, so I guess Mark, do you think that's an issue if you were looking at a Volt under the same circumstances?
Well, I'm an edge case, but it wouldn't stop me because if I've done the research, I'm looking for something specifically, I would do it. The normal car buyer, absolutely. Absolutely. It would be a factor as to, do you want to be going test driving cars in January, February?
What do you think, Paul?
I guess it depends on how bad you need a car. I mean, if you're car grenades and you need a car, and you're going to go shopping for a car, and the showrooms are heated, but it's not going to be fun to drive the car. Well, it might be fun to drive the car on ice and snow. See how
you get to find out how it handles, but you're probably not going to see how readily the engine shuts off because your heat's going to be cranked and your seat warmers are going to be on.
Well, I mean, and Tony, can I use your personal experience in this?
Oh, you can use me all you want.
Okay, well then, I'm going to use you. But I mean, Tony was very interested in this new car, but he was disappointed that it was coming out in the winter and living in a cold place. Wasn't really that excited about taking delivery of a car in like January and having to wait several months to really get a feel for its performance and the mileage and all of that. You know what? Like, I totally get that. It's like having a toy that you can't play with.
Yeah, and or in very limited conditions, and I park outside, so I really don't want to buy a brand new car in February and then park it outside. I actually want a few months of decent driving in the car before I have to chip ice off the windshield.
Plus, in the Rust Belt, a lot of people have like winter beaters to drive, and they don't want to drive their new car on salty, slushy roads and wreck it. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
So let's come back to some really random speculation. I mean, Toyota's known this car was coming out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something, you know what I mean? Like, what is the advantage to Toyota in releasing a 2016 car in February or March of 2016?
You know, if I could say something, it would be that, you know, I'm focused on how cold it is in Chicago, but we know that in other parts of the world, like Australia, it's summer in February. You know, there's other parts of the world that the Prius
But
is
the
going to
steering
be
wheel's on the
shipping
wrong
in.
side down there.
Yes.
And the water goes the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's all
Toilet
upside
goes
down.
back.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So,
is this going to affect the Californian purchaser?
Yeah, I doubt that it's going to affect people in California and Texas and Arizona.
And honestly, the first boatloads are going to probably go to California and be sold in California.
Sure, I'm sure the first boatloads are sold already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the Prius. We can talk about how the sales have been soft or whatever, but I mean, Toyota's revised down its global sales target for 2016 from 350 to 400,000 to 300,000 next year. So, I mean, obviously, they're looking at a delayed delivery, possibly in parts of the United States, which is a huge market, even though it's a global vehicle. They're looking at the price of gasoline. I mean, gasoline's still $1.85 a gallon here.
Yeah.
But Toyota's Tundra sales are way up.
Yay!
Yeah, yeah.
I just, you know what? Can I be a jerk here? Wait, I'm a jerk every time. I don't need to ask.
Sure.
It's my show.
You don't need to ask for permission.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those times when, like, in 18 months or 2 years, I'm just going to get to look back and kind of snicker and go, I'm so glad you bought that. What was I behind tonight on the way home? An Envoy XXL. I said, you're so glad you bought that Envoy XXL because, yeah, gas was cheap the day you bought it.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm sorry. I hate big things.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, and I got to say, I am still, relatively borderline excited about the Gen 4 Prius. I mean, I really am. However, I am now leaning that it's going to be a 2017 and not a 2016.
Wow.
Because, I mean, my car will make it another summer. I mean, I only have 140,000 miles on my 2004 Prius. Now, if it were a Tesla, I'd have swapped out the drivetrain by now. But, I know that it will last another summer or 3.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not in a big hurry unless, Paul's, the key word of the night is grenades. Unless it explodes or I get in an accident or something, I'm not in a hurry to buy a car. So I can certainly wait the summer and get a 2017 when they come out.
I just want to suggest we incorporate a Paul Guzik word into the What Drives Us lexicon. Grenade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the best way to explain like a non-operative vehicle.
Preceded by check the oil.
Yes.
Yes.
Which Paul?
Even your Tesla, check the oil, because that would be the headline. Tesla drivetrains grenade because owners never check their oil.
That would actually be hilarious to find Tesla owners like, so how often do you change the oil? Well, you've never changed the oil? Oh my god!
You need a new powertrain.
Well, you know what? Speaking of needing a new powertrain, there's a Hyundai Tucson that went 152.24 kilometers per hour. That's what, like 70 miles an hour? I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke. But a Hyundai Tucson fuel cell vehicle set the land speed record for fuel cell vehicles. Now, what this has to do with anything is sort of the reason why I brought this up, because honestly, who gives a rat's ass that this car went 150 kilometers an hour?
Yeah. somebody realized, hey, there's no land speed record for fuel cell vehicles, so let's just take the
Because there's
Hyundai
only
out to
3
the
cars. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They're just trying to make it appear normal, right? They're just saying you can get a speeding ticket. Great.
Right. Yeah. They're trying to look normal by proving that the top speed is, 152
Like a normal
kilometers
car.
per hour.
I'm trying to. That's. Does anybody know exactly what that? I'm going to guess that Mark probably
I'm
knows.
guessing 90.
It's 94.5 miles an hour.
Oh, I was so close.
Can I tell you that I had
You
my
can do that in a Prius.
I had my
Prius will do
13th Prius at
116.
105. Okay,
Yeah.
I drove at 105 in Montana. I admit it. I'm proud of it, and I really don't care.
Mhm. Yeah.
And no, it was flat ground. It was not going downhill, asshole.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and my car accelerates.
But how did you fit the gun rack in the Prius?
I did not have a gun rack in the Prius.
It was a
Well, if
wine
you're in
rack.
Montana, you must have had a gun rack.
The guns go in the glove box. You know that,
Oh, yeah.
Paul.
Yeah.
You don't put a gun rack in a Prius. That's just it mixes the metaphor. It's not good.
There are some suburbs here.
I did see a Prius with an NRA sticker on it, which
Did
I
you
wonder if
really?
that is a joke or what. But,
I loved. I mean, I despise the NRA, but I love that. I like that kind of cognitive dissonance. You know. Yeah. So anyway, Hyundai got their fuel cell vehicle to 94.5 miles per hour on the salt flats. You can lease one for 3 years for $500 a month plus $3,000, and of course the fuel is free. The problem is you only get fuel twice a year, and only in one place.
and you got to live 3 miles from the LA fueling station.
Yeah, and actually they give it to you in a plastic bag. Oddly enough. In a little plastic bag of fuel. Here's your fuel.
Don't they just float a blimp up by your house and then you just, tap off that when you need it?
So unlike a traditional fueling station, it's like a drive-through. You come up and they give you the bag.
How can I just, you know what? I mean, like the whole thing with fuel cell vehicles is like I always thought that part of the thing with fuel cell vehicles was that they perform like ICE motors. And 95 miles an hour, really? I mean, I have mopeds that have done 95 miles an hour. I don't get why you would even brag about that.
Yeah, that's my thing is, like you said, they were trying to prove that, hey, this car is normal. But no,
They needed to do a press release that had fuel cell car in it, and that's the only thing they could come up with that week.
I'm curious, Russell, did the report indicate that you stated the kilometers per hour?
Yes,
Why
sir.
was it quoted in kilometers per hour?
That's an interesting question. And
was it just to confuse the normal, American public on metric to say that 150 is rather large, or was it another reason?
I don't know. It appears to be. It's from the Voice Herald.
I'm trying to figure out.
.com. I'm trying to figure out more about them, but it looks like an American-based media source. So
And that would be very unusual that an American-based media source would quote in kilometers.
No, but it sounds bigger.
It does sound bigger, right?
Right.
Which is why I always measure in kilometers. Millimeters, in fact.
There goes your Tinder listing, Schaefer. Sorry.
Yep.
He says he's how many kilometers long?
0.0000.
Okay, so next up, maybe we can make more out of this. This was an interesting article at bigthink.com. And the article is entitled "Why Smart People Do Stupid Things," and it's all about texting and driving. And I appreciate that the author said, you know what, in the end, I text and drive and you shouldn't do it. And rather than just the standard like millennial bashing, which I totally bored with, the idea that these darn kids today and their texts, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put this forward and then let you guys run with this if you have anything to say. I think one of the reasons that this is such a problem is that our cars are so backwards technologically and so non-upgradable. And I don't know that I feel all that I don't want to say, I don't want people to text and drive. It's dangerous. I don't want them to put on makeup and drive. I don't want them to read the newspaper, both of which I've seen in the last year happen. I don't want them, it bugs me, and I see this every day here multiple times. Somebody driving down the road in a late model car with a phone stuck to their ear. Really? Is a Bluetooth headset that expensive? Your car doesn't have Bluetooth, or you're just too effing lazy? Which one is it? Okay. So
I thought somebody was going to jump in, but yeah, Illinois passed the hands-free Illinois law. Guess how many times I've seen it enforced? Guess how many times I've seen it violated?
Right.
Yeah, on a regular basis. And yes, I see people holding, of course, iPhones. I have an iPhone. I know it'll sync to a Bluetooth earbud. Here's $5.
Even a 2004 Prius.
Yeah, exactly. Even a 12-year-old Prius will use Bluetooth. So, but even to Russell's point, it's even not just technology. I do see the makeup. I see the newspaper. What else? God, I've seen so many distracting behaviors in the morning commute. And quite frankly, some days I'm just happy that I made it to work alive, being on the road with these people.
It is distracted driving, right? So it's not just technology. It's distracted driving. Whether you're reading a magazine or putting makeup on, but it's something that everybody tries to eliminate. But the message needs to go out over and over and over again ad nauseum. Just like drinking and driving, maybe 15 years ago. 10 years ago, it was more common. The message has to go out and go out and go out, beat people over the head, and unfortunately, that's just the state of humanity.
I like how the camera cuts to Tony drinking beer. I'm sorry, Paul.
Yes.
I was just say, it's not going to matter. In 10 years, we'll have self-driving cars, and you can put on your makeup, and the car will drive you to work.
Yeah, and again, this isn't about kids or about women.
Right.
This is about everyone. I see this every day, and I see more elderly people here because, hey, I'm in Florida, with phones stuck to their head, and...
Well, that's a great combination, a distracted elderly person behind the wheel.
Saw one today, okay? Today. Phone in this hand, hot dog in this hand. And she was steering the car how?
With her cane.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know. And I'm the last one to begrudge, somebody a chance to eat or talk on the phone. I just, this isn't a kid problem. This isn't a texting problem. I think Mark framed it well. This is a distracted driving problem, and what can we do to solve it? And Paul has the answer, which is just don't let people drive anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it when we can solve a complex issue with one simple
It's
answer.
just simple. Yep, just simple.
Yes.
We're taking away your car keys, America.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So to sum it up, we're just telling everyone just to wait a little bit longer, and we'll have it all solved.
Yeah.
Yep.
The solution to this is coming, and you're not going to like it. But hey, as long as I can get to the store without having to worry about being killed by someone eating a dog.
Yep.
And by that I mean a hot dog, not a puppy.
You don't know that, Russell.
Florida's crazy. It's not that crazy.
I will say I read an interesting article. This was several years ago, and it was talking about distracted driving and how what this article was about was through the entire millions of years of human evolution, humans never exceeded the speed of a flat-out run until you hopped on horses, and now you could go at a faster speed, and then they invented cars. But even the first cars topped out at 20 miles an hour, maybe 30. Oh my God, 30 miles an hour. But the point of the article was that people are more willing to do dangerous things in a high-speed vehicle, doing 45, 50, even 60, 70 miles an hour, because they don't fully comprehend. The human brain isn't designed to comprehend that level of speed, how much ground you're actually covering at 70 miles an hour. People are accustomed to walking and looking down at their phone, and they've covered 10 feet, and they can stop and they can adjust if something comes up. And they carry that same mentality when they're just sitting passively behind a steering wheel. The car is flying them down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, and they'll spend 10 seconds looking at their phone or typing a text, and they don't realize that they've just done 2/10 of a mile. So I just thought that was interesting. I just wanted to throw that in.
Wow.
And the force, when an accident occurs at that speed is just incredibly bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even we've seen that happen with race car drivers that have insane safety systems, and one little brush against the wall and boom, it's like they're jelly. And guess what? In a car, that's what happens when you're going 50, 60 miles an hour, or if you're on the highway in Florida, 85 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Any final words on the distracted driving?
Don't do it.
Yep.
Good point, Mr. Coughlin. Good point. White lines, don't do it. Oh, sorry. That's going to wrap up the news for this week. I want to go through the shout-outs, and I want to add something in. I don't know that all the panelists are aware of it, but they'll be aware of it after this show. I want to start adding something in at the end because there's lots of stuff that that I don't get to talk about, and since it's my show, it's all about me, babe. There's lots of stuff that I don't get to talk about just because it doesn't fit in any kind of convenient topic. And one of the things that I miss doing from some of the other shows that I used to do was just kind of champion something that I think is really cool. And even if it's something obvious, even if it's like, hey, I love these red plastic cups, man, these things are the best. And I don't. I think red plastic cups are lame. But so at the end of the show, as well as the shout-outs, I want to give all of our panelists a chance to kind of talk about something that they think is cool. And I'm going to lead off with sort of my own personal crusade. Danny Cooper made me do this. And it's an app that's existed for a while. And he raved about it, and I finally used it on 2 trips between Florida and Pennsylvania. It's 1,000-mile trips, and then around town, around in Florida, where I'm not really super familiar with this thing. And honestly, Waze, W-A-Z-E, if you don't use it, if you have a smartphone and you aren't using Waze for nav, your life sucks. You have no idea. I don't care.
Oh, come on. I'd rather use the Prius built-in now.
Yes.
I don't care if you have the best Lexus or Acura or whatever it is, the best built-in nav. Compared to Waze, it sucks. It's terrible. Oh, look, it's nighttime. Unlike my Prius, it knows when it's night.
Yes.
My Prius doesn't know when it's night. But this is Waze. It's you can't really tell very much here because I'm not moving and I'm not driving. But it's a Google product. And what makes Waze cool is it's crowdsourced information. So it's constantly being updated live. In fact, you have an opportunity to participate in some distracted driving and note police
and it's
activity.
really cool. Yeah, like you'll be driving with Waze and it will say road debris 500 feet ahead. And sure enough, there's something in the middle of the highway. Because someone 100 feet ahead of you reported it.
And just, you know what, just like putting you on alert so that you're extra, like maybe you back off from the car in front of you and give you some room so that retreaded tire that exploded off a truck doesn't hit your car at 70 miles an hour. This app is so amazing. It's so cool. And it's such an indictment of all the infotainment systems in cars. Because this is what it should be. Now, I don't believe Waze is available for Android yet.
I don't know.
No, it would have to be. It's a Google product.
I don't,
Yeah, it is. I'm sure it is.
Is it? For some reason, I thought it wasn't. Okay, so I'll take that back. Right. It's a Google product. Maybe it is. But either way, if you have a smartphone and you drive, get Waze, get a holder for your phone. I have a little thing that mounted on my air vent now. My phone sits up there when I'm driving, and it's made my driving better.
It will tell you speed trap ahead, Everything.
I'll tell you
Absolutely.
one thing. I've started using it because Russell has raved about it so much. One thing I find interesting is as I'm driving, it has my speed because it's geo following, so it has my speed and it knows how fast I'm driving, which doesn't seem like much, but when it's crowdsourcing multiple Waze users,
Right.
it knows when there's congestion because multiple Waze users are driving at a slow speed over a certain stretch of
Right.
road, so it will paint that road red, so you know as you're coming up on it there's congestion up ahead. I mean, you don't even have to interact with it, and it will benefit you.
Although there was some complaints in LA because a savvy LA person, or in any town, I guess, knows sort of the secret way to get to work that's 10 minutes quicker than going the way Google Maps would take you.
Mhm.
And a couple people would drive their sort of secret way through residential neighborhoods, and then Waze would start routing everyone else through that way. And there was one story I saw online somewhere where like there's this poor residential neighborhood with like 500 cars going through in the morning because it saves them 10 minutes to get to work, and all these families like, my kids walk down these streets and all these people are. So that's the bad thing about Waze, but other than that, everything's great.
And the good thing is, I was driving again from Florida to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Washington D.C. I mean, just
It's a
you
shit
never.
show.
It's that's the nice way to put it. So I'm stuck on the Beltway, and all of a sudden Waze says, "Bing, detour," and
Right.
I go off on this road, okay, and we drive down the road, and we drive into a park, literally into this like city
Like a
park.
county park or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I go 2 miles up the road. I literally do a U-turn and come back down a road that's parallel to the road I went in on. And it's like
What
it's
are
like
they doing?
time travel. I come back on the freeway that was literally gridlocked at somehow at a different place,
Right.
and boom, I'm driving 60 miles an hour out of DC.
Yeah.
That was when I was like,
Yeah.
couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sorry.
it's all
Well-
real-time information and routing you around the bad stuff.
Speaking for someone that does not use Waze, I've never used it. I'm going to try it. So one question I have for you, Russell, is
Probably doesn't work in Canada though.
there you go. Look at mine. It's blank.
Yeah.
Says, go back, eh?
Yeah.
But how do those reports get into Waze about road debris or speed traps? How does a
You touch
user
the
enter them?
screen. It's like
Distracted driving.
distracted driving.
That's what I was
like
wondering.
little tiles
Yeah.
you press on the screen.
So the interface is as simple as it could possibly be. Basically, you have a map, and then you have one little button in the lower right, and you tap that, and it'll bring up just some categories. And it's traffic, police, hazard, accident, weather,
Stolen
something.
car. Yeah.
So, like, let's say traffic. And so I tap the button, I bring up the categories, I tap traffic, and I have 3 categories to choose from. One is moderate traffic, one is like slowly moving, the other is total standstill. I tap whichever one it is, and then I hit send. So in 3 taps, I've just logged, here's what's going on at this spot.
And would you consider that distracted driving?
Yes.
Well, the thing is,
A little bit.
yes, in theory it is because you're taking your eyes off the road. Now, I try to make it a point to only, log things when I'm at a standstill, But yeah, I'm sure there are people who are driving and logging things at the same time. But
There's other cool features. If you use it like a navigator, you put in an address of a business you've never been to, and I did this a few weeks ago. I was going to Denver, and when I got there, it said, would you like to take a picture of this business so the next guy who puts in this address will know what the business looks like so he can spot it easier? So I did. I just took a picture with my smartphone, and it adds it to their database. So then the next guy, instead of having to look at the house number or the business number, sees the actual building, which makes it really cool.
Yeah, that's some great crowdsourcing abilities.
Exactly.
Well, and we could do a whole show on this, and I don't want to, but ponder this. Google is getting real-time traffic information on literally every street in America. Traffic flow patterns, accident records, debris in the roadway, pothole information.
They also
all
know
of this
where you're
information.
driving and what radio station you're listening to.
How fast you're driving.
How
If,
fast
if
you're
if only now they were to create an autonomous car to take advantage of that much information.
Yeah, if only. I mean, let me put it to this. I mean, I love the Waze app, and I do think that there's a small element of distracted driving. They've done a good job, especially with this newer version, of logging issues much easier. It used to be a little more hinky. Now it's very, very simple, very straightforward.
And even though it's a Google app, it was a small startup, I think, in Israel that started it, and then Google, of course, drove up the money truck and bought them. So, but it does make sense for Google to own a company like that.
The one thing I think is missing, honestly, if when logging things, in my opinion, it would be better if there were a microphone button, and if you could just say something like moderate traffic, and then it would drop it, or police trap, or something. And then that way it wouldn't be as distracted. I wouldn't have to find the icon and click here.
Right.
It should definitely have that. And I think, for some reason, I seem to recall reading that was something that they were working on.
Oh, great.
Well, of course, that means giving Google access to your microphone in your car. So,
they know everything. They already have
everything.
Hey, if they want to listen to me sing along with the radio, that is entirely up to them.
Can you imagine the blackmail? You blackmail like 200 million people all at once for singing badly along with the radio.
Here's Tony singing 1990s Britney Spears.
So that's my thing. It's for your smartphone. It's called Waze, W-A-Z-E. Get it, use it, and love it. And I would love to hear what your experience is.
And it's free, right?
It's totally free. Well, right now it's free. I would be very not surprised to see it go to...
Well, there'll be a Waze Pro version.
Yeah, to some... it's already ad supported. Some ads will pop up every once in a while. They're not bad. But
it's the Tony Muzak edition that costs extra.
Yeah.
I would love
the Britney Spears edition.
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Like I said, this was sort of short notice. I don't know. Do you guys have anything? Does anybody have anything they wanted to champion this week?
I wanted to champion a site. Yes, I do. There's a site that went offline, not necessarily offline, but just wasn't updated for quite some time as far as today's go-go world is concerned, and it's back online, and it's called PriusOwnersGroup.com. And it's a really cool place. I'm just saying, everyone needs to go to PriusOwnersGroup.com.
Start clicking on stuff.
Yeah.
Click the Google ads.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Read what's up there. Now, of course, the reason Russell is not saying anything is you can see in his lower third that Russell is PriusOwnersGroup.com. He's bringing it back, and I will say, I whether people choose to believe it or not, I spent several hours of my life several years ago reading the first iteration, all of Russell's blog posts on Prius Owners Group. I found them interesting. I found them fascinating and entertaining. So he's bringing it back, and I think everyone should read. And if you like the stuff that he's doing, just click a few Google apps. He gets a couple of ducats, and he'll keep doing it. So there's my champion.
Good job. Good job.
I had no idea what you just said, Tony, but thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, so yeah.
And that's PriusOwnersGroup.com.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Guzik. Well, let's you know what, it's 10:15. Let's go home. I think we've had a good show. Shout-outs this week, Mr. Coughlin.
No real shout-outs. Just looking forward to the Detroit Auto Show and hopefully get some good reporting for the site. And I appreciate the opportunity.
So like that must be a really good thing. Like, let's do an auto show in Detroit in the middle of winter. Like, good time to get people to go to Detroit. Like,
Yeah.
because it's always a great time to go to Detroit.
That's Detroit marketing for you. It's perfect.
I never visited the Soviet Union, but the first time I was in Detroit in January, literally I went, I've been there. I know what it's like. And I think the water
It's been to Chernobyl.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you want to be sad. Detroit's a horribly abused city, but I'm not going to go there. Tony Schaefer.
I want to remind everyone about the What Drives Us Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/whatdrivesus, all one word. And I want to give some shout-outs. Jason Stefanov and Neo Dio, Rob Bond, Andrew Owens, Pascal Fall. The others, I'm going to apologize up front. I'm just going to go with Irfan. Thank you for recently liking the page. And Abdelrahman Habib, I'm hoping. Thanks for the recent like. Appreciate it. And hope you're watching the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. It's at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. I almost said that right. Facebook.com/whatdrivesus. All one word, no spaces. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Not a shout out per se, but a little public service announcement. I'm always telling people with older cars to check their oil. Well, the new public service announcement for this season is if you only have one key to your car and you have a modern car, get a second key made, because there's a thread on Prius chat right now of this poor lady who lost her last key to her Gen 3 Prius, and it's going to cost her $1,800 to make her car drive again.
What?
Yeah. So, and that pretty much can go for any modern car. So have a spare key made. If you're down to one key, get another one soon.
Yeah. Wow.
And then shameless plug, Boulder Hybrids is my shop in Boulder, Colorado. Anybody with a hybrid or EV anywhere within reasonable driving distance, we can look after your car for a lot less than $1,800.
Paul is the man. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to live close enough to Boulder to use him, go and use him. Use him shamelessly. Use him roughly.
Or you can use that new tunnel that comes down from Saskatchewan.
That's right. That goes to Canada. We're sending all the drugs up to Canada.
That Colorado-Canada Rouge tunnel that Paul is building.
No, don't send the drugs up to Canada. We want to funnel the cheap drugs into the U.S.
Tony
You're going the wrong way.
Well, that's on the return trip.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Empty cards.
Well, I guess that brings it to me. Since my my co-host is not here this week, I do want to say that if you have a Prius and if you need anything for that Prius, like mud guards or sunshades or who knows what,
engine block heaters
and engine block heaters, cup holders. I don't even know. I haven't been there in so long. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm a failure. No. Go to priuschat.com/shop. That's priuschat.com/shop for all of your Prius needs. Best thing about Danny's store, as opposed to all the other places that sell Prius accessories, Danny actually tests this junk and makes sure it works.
Did you say junk?
Yeah,
Junk, but
these fine products.
and I have actually guinea pigged some of that stuff too. So. Unlike some other places that just get stuff in and say, hey, this will connect to your car, and they're more than happy to sell it to you and then laugh at you when you can't get it to work, know that the stuff you get at the Prius Chat shop has been tested.
I can say that I've tested some of the stuff as well. Since Danny doesn't have a Gen 2, some of the Gen 2 stuff he has sent to me to test.
There you go. So, like, what is that, like the coal to solar adapter? Or
It's the Unicorn tier extractor.
Oh, did I skip Mark again?
No.
Oh, bloody. Okay, after the show, I'm going to shoot myself. So, hey, this has been a great final. Anyway, that's priuschat.com/shop. I also want to thank Michael Mannering for our theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Visit us at whatdrives.us. Download or stream the show there. You can, of course, get it through Stitcher or through iTunes or any number of fun podcatchers. Subscribe, leave us a positive review, and just enjoy the show. That's really all we care about. I want to thank my panelists this week, Mr. Mark Coughlin, Mr. Tony Schaefer, Mr. Paul Guzik. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on and making a great show.
Thanks.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure.
And I have the phone in my hand. I'm all ready to roll. I want to thank all the listeners and the viewers and the contributors and the people who visit the Facebook site. Thank all of you because you guys make it great. So let's see. Download us next week.
Are you just stalling because your recording isn't set up?
No. That was a dramatic pause. I'm a professional, Guzik, okay?
I was waiting for him to look to the side and yell, line.
No.
Yes, that's the professional audio studio of the iPhone.
Yeah, my iPhone. Yeah, I used to have professional audio. That was a long time ago. Now I have an iPhone. There it is, right there, our theme music. So download us next week and find out what drives us.